Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this started.
Everybody, welcome back to Java Chat, and I'm telling you today we've got a good one for you. I'm starting to sound like Steve Harvey. We got a good one for you today. I got to get Steve Harvey on this podcast one of these days. I don't know if you've ever heard him talk, but he's amazing when it comes to entrepreneurship.
You know what's funny you doing that is I did years in radio, and so when you get in the radio voice in the industry they call it puking. So
I puke well. I've done radio too. Trust me. I actually did voices for a couple of radio stations back in Hawaii, where I'm from.
Yeah. Okay.
And I used to do all the Warner Brothers and Hanna-Barbera cartoon characters, accents, and all that stuff. And it was funny because they'd be just like, "So who's doing all that stuff for you?" "Oh, it's some local kid." It's like, "Some local kid? What are you talking about? Some local kid knows how to do that." And because I was known as a musician, not a voice actor. So we had fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The other one was called Lounge Lizard.
Lounge Lizard?
Hey, it's beautiful today
out. Okay. Yeah.
The real hey.
Yeah, like the dance DJ.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, I remember those days. Thankfully, I'm an original raver, so our DJ was not like that. We actually got to dancing. But in any case, so I have the pleasure of having a gentleman here by the name of Damon Burton. I want to give you guys a little bit of background on him before we get after this, because the guy's just insanely interesting. First off, you host your own podcast. What's it called?
Learning from Others.
Learning from Others. If that doesn't tell you anything about this man right out the gate, you're missing it. Okay. Having started his business, he started before the 2008 recession. Great timing, by the way, Damon.
Yeah,
Holy shit. Damon is familiar navigating and growing a business through. Yeah, it's like, I want some of what you smoked that day, because that is ballsy.
Well, it's not exactly like I or anyone knew it was coming.
Just kind of ping. Yeah, I know that one too. So it's interesting. Never before has there been so many people needing something to focus their attention on and the time to do it. Over a decade ago, you beat a $1 billion company. We're getting into that by outranking them by outranking their website on Google. Now, folks, when you hear who it is, you're gonna really want to know, because first off, $1 billion company, okay, but it's a $1 billion media company, a company that knows how to dominate search, and he beat them at their own game. Okay, so he knows he's got something good. He's got a company by called SEO National. You started in 2007. It's still the same name, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
still
cool.
at it 13 years later.
You write for Forbes. You're a contributor now.
Mm-hmm.
You've been featured in publications like Entrepreneur Mag, BuzzFeed, USA Weekly. You've helped high-profile clients make more in a month than they used to in a year. So, I like this last part. Not only does Burton bring an easy-to-follow approach to increasing your revenue and online visibility, he literally wrote the book on how to outrank your competition. Dude, yeah, we're digging it.
Look at this.
His new book, Outrank, serves as a, and by the way, I'll need the link to the book, please, so that we can promote that on the podcast. People can grab a copy of it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
As a guide to those who want to dominate Google search results without paying for ads. Normally, you would not be somebody I would have on my podcast, because paid ads are my specialty, especially with identity resolution. However, I am a marketer, and to just focus on one as a total solution would be absolutely foolhardy for any company, business, or person that's trying to create a brand online. And so this will lead to my first question: is branding in I think in both of our opinions is more crucial today than it has ever been?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with what you were saying, because a lot of times I talk with other people, and I've never understood the marketers that are the guys that are like, if you don't do paid ads, you're a loser. Or even the guys on my own team, if you don't do SEO, you're a loser. I've never understood the concept of it being a zero-sum game, because if all of the above are driving a profit, then do all of the above. It's that there's no perfect cookie cutter design for any business. And a good example for me is I'm not on TikTok, and I've don't anticipate being on TikTok because I don't want to be the dancing SEO guy. So
Nice.
it's like the same thing for any other business, find where your audience is. And then if there are multiple places and you can monetize multiple places, then it's fine. If you can only monetize one, then do one. But yeah, your question about branding it's super important because it's the goal of SEO and branding, as you know, is to build up the assets that you own. You're building up a reputation and credibility. But why it's more important now is because a combination of and ors or all the above in the current economic climate is some people need to stretch their dollar further, or maybe they don't, but they're more sensitive now to what's going on because of the political climate. And so now people always want to buy, not necessarily from faceless companies, and they may pay your company, but they're probably buying because of you.
Yeah.
And so now it's even more important because there's a sensitivity to the world where people want to buy more on trust, and you do that through branding.
I think a lot of marketers lost it. They, again, speaking to that point of the zero sum solution, which has never been. And I don't know why that started or where that started. I'm old school. Programmatic is the old school. I mean, billboards, TV, radio, blah blah blah.
Omnipresence.
You couldn't, omnipresence. You couldn't do just one. You had to have yourself in multiple places. The only challenge with the programmatic was it was expensive. So the best you could hope for as a small business was the classifieds, or maybe getting some PR. And then most people did that and didn't know how to follow up with it, blah, blah, blah. But now you have all of this. And you mentioned something that I pump on a lot, which is the ands and ors, what we call alternatives and substitutes. That's one of the biggest forces fighting against your own profits as a business owner. You got somebody else that can either do a version of it that might be a little better and cheaper, or has some alternative version, period, that may not necessarily be at all what you do, but still works. In some way or form, and you can still get an ROI on it. And for the people that are more conscious about their dollars, I think people are finally beginning to understand the difference between cost and investment. At least I hope they are.
There's always going to be some.
Oh, I still run into those too. Trust me. And I hate to say it, but even when, like, if we're on a sales call or something like that, it becomes a poker game. They're trying to figure out, are you an and? Are you an or are you what I'm looking for? And if you haven't already established that already outside, it's going to be a long conversation.
Yeah, there's some beauty to what you said. A good example is by the time my leads come to me, they're usually just, here's my money. Like we go on a date, and then they go, okay, is this? My friend referred me to you and said you're a hunky dude, but I just really want to see one time if you're a hunky dude, and then okay, here's my money.
In that case, it would be, here's the ring, just put it on my finger, let's go.
Yeah. You're true. You're correct. Yeah, I think a lot of this has to do with, the last 10 years or so with social media and copywriting hammering the pain points.
Yeah.
And so, I understand how you can convert that. And that's always been in copywriting, where it's like, identify the pain points of your customer and then tell them how you can solve it. But now on social media, it's just like, you need this or you're a loser. And so everyone feels like they have to pick a battle. And so now everyone's in just this battle mode. And that's why it's become zero sum. It's because I have an epiphany and my thing's better and it's this way or the highway.
Yeah. And I see that when they do that too, it desensitizes or jades the marketplace. Because, we tried that already. You tried a version of it, and the version you tried obviously didn't work. It's a fight. If you're not educating, and I was just on the phone with what now was supposed to be an affiliate relationship is going to end up becoming a client relationship real quick. We just started talking about stuff, and he's just like, wait, you can do that? I'm like, yeah, but that's not why we're on the phone.
But you know what? You know why that worked though, is because you weren't selling.
No, and I didn't want to. I said, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. Can you do that? Yeah, I can. That's not why we're on the phone, but okay.
Yeah.
but like you said, if you're educating, which is, I think now it's called edutainment. It used to be called infotainment, or maybe it still is. I don't know. But edutainment now is keeping the person engaged by entertaining them while educating them. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that builds the know you, like you, trust you long before a sale is ever considered, and probably creates a lot better environment for what you have happening. And I'm assuming that's kind of what you do at this point. Is that pretty close to correct?
Yeah, definitely the majority of our sales just come from referrals or staying top of mind. I'm not a salesy guy. It's not that I can't be, it's just that I don't want to be. Like, I don't
Yeah,
want to be the
yeah,
PP guy.
same here.
And so when I get on, a lot of our clients come from either, it's definitely the majority is from two places. One is referrals from existing clients. And kind of the analogy I give is, how if you're watching the CSI crime scene shows and they got like the cork board and they got a pin here and then they draw the string
Yep,
over to a pin
yep.
here. Like, I can do that string back 13 years for probably 80% plus of my clients, from
That's
one
awesome.
client to another client. And now where the other clients come from is just giving free value and social proof. And so for me, it's Facebook and LinkedIn. And so I get on LinkedIn. I've been slacking the last month because I've just been super busy, which is a great problem to have. But
Oh yeah, it's a great
you know
problem.
so I get on there and I say, here's how to do this thing for free. And I don't have a call to action. It's like, literally, here's your answer. Like, that one thing that's super hard about SEO, here's a simpler way to do it. Or, that one thing that takes time, here's a faster way to do it. And then by doing that, so when I grow my audience on LinkedIn, I don't live in the private messages. I'm not there to sell in the private messages. So what I do is I connect and then I bounce out. And then what I do is I just want them in my network so I can show them my expertise and then just build that relationship. So kind of what we touched on earlier, the people that want your thing, they're going to buy it one day, whether it's you or somebody else. So you don't have to sell them on it. They're going to buy it when they're ready. Instead, just build that relationship with them.
Yeah, we're in the same position. That some of the stuff that we do with identity resolution, a lot of people don't really know it yet. Machine AI learning, or AI machine learning, excuse me. I have that Freudian thing where I flip things. But AI machine learning, identity resolution are not well-known topics in the realm of marketing because they still think it's being used for security stuff and Big Brother and all this kind of thing. And it's also being used for marketing, and trying to educate people about that stuff sometimes is like beating your head against the wall. But at the same time, it's like, you should know this stuff. I'm not, I sell this stuff, but you should know why it works. You should know how it works. You should understand what it's about and why it's important when you're using it for whatever you're doing. If you're going to educate, like here, and here's a question. Let's go back to when you first started and slipped onto this. I mean, was it a banana peel slip, or was it one of those things where you just kind of, you know what I'm saying? Is it just like one of those things where you just kind of went, holy shit, let's do this. This will work, and went from there? Or was it one of those things where it was a real like, ooh, here's an opportunity to serve. Let's go serve.
It was a combination. So I never had, there was definitely definitive moments, but they were micro moments that led to other micro moments. So there's very clear blips on the radar, but it wasn't just one mega one. And so where I would say, if we go way, way, way back, it started probably even when I was, a teenager. So growing up lower middle class, I didn't have computers. And so that was the first thing what I got into. Is like, okay, well, I'm going to take advantage of these computers when I'm at school. And so that kind of built an appreciation for the opportunity to work with those. Then high school years, if you think back 20 plus years, they didn't have WordPress and Dreamweaver and these web design programs.
You mean we didn't? Because that would have been me.
Yeah.
We had typewriters. That's about all we had.
I could go back to typewriters. I'm not going to, though. So in high school, they said, hey, we have this. It was my junior year, and they said, we have this HTML class. And so because I didn't have those programs, you had to learn it by hand. And I'm actually super grateful to have learned that now, because now when you use these cool programs, they don't know if it looks ugly. They just do what you tell it to do when you push the button. So it's nice to be able to go in there and say, no, you're screwing this up, Mr. Program. Do it this way, and overwrite it. So then the next year, they in my senior year, they said, okay, well, now anybody that's taking this other class, we have this kind of like exclusive class of just 10 students, and you can build the server's website or the school district's websites. And so we would do the different websites for the schools. And so that was like where I got introduced to it. And then fast forward a year or two, and then I was in a communications class in college. And this is like one of the real clear definitive moments is in the communications class. They said, okay, here's FTP access on the server. And so if you're not familiar with what that is, it's just like a chunk of space on the school's computers
Right.
where I can play and build something.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, everybody in the class has to build a basic HTML website with these minimum requirements. And so I was looking at the sheet and I got thinking, I said, why am I going to spend this much time if they're just going to wipe it out at the end of the semester? And so I asked my teacher and I said, can I buy a domain? And if I'm going to build something, can I build it
Keep
on
it.
my
Yeah,
space instead
keep
of the
it.
server?
Yeah.
And so I made a website called eliterides.com. I still own the domain, but it's just archived. There's nothing there. And so it was a car enthusiast website because, of course, in your early 20s, you're into cars. And so
Sure.
if you think Fast and Furious, but 2 years before Fast and Furious. So that's kind of the space that I was building out. So that's kind of like the first blip. And then the way that evolved was before Google Analytics, there was this program called Webalizer. It's still around, but you don't, not as many
I
people
remember
use it.
hearing about that. I never used it though.
Yeah. So usually it's just kind of there on your server and
Yeah.
it would show your traffic. And so I kind of just stumbled in, what is this thing? And then I was like, holy crap, I have traffic.
Yeah. Right.
And so at that point I said, well, that's cool. How do I make this a better experience to draw in more traffic? And so that's when I said, okay, let's dig deeper into the world of web design. And then the next instance of that was, okay, I've grown more. Now, how do I monetize this? And so then that's how I got into marketing. And so I just had this hobby site for years. And then I had another hobby site or two, which will open the door to the ABC thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I got into it. And then after if we kind of skip past the ABC thing and kind of get to where it became a career, it was at one point I had probably 40% of my income was from my side hustle, but
Nice.
80% of my time was consumed by my day job.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, okay, does this make sense to take the risk, cut out the day job, which would suck to lose 60% of your income, but can I still pay all my bills? And so then I said,
that's always the question. Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss that one.
Yeah. They're just like,
you have to go
I'm
into
gonna
debt.
go all in.
No, you don't.
You know what? That's a whole other conversation we could potentially get into.
Oh, yeah, we will eventually.
I never understand why the first thought is, how do I raise money? Like, you don't just freaking start your thing.
It's called a side hustle for a reason. It's on the side while you continue doing it. It's how I had to start too. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I had to have jobs.
Yeah.
Now I don't, but I mean, I had to have jobs. We got to do what we got to do. I don't think there's anybody that has ever not bitten the bullet, but not had some kind of thing to back them up just in case without having to go out and raise capital. You don't. So I used to work for an angel group, not to interrupt your story, but I used to work for an angel investment group. That was one of the things I always asked. Do you guys have income that can last you for at least 6 months? And I mean, income, your reserves need to be another 6 months. And I always got, no, we'll just get it from the capital. I'm like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
That capital coming in is not going to your salaries. You don't get one for the first year. You're investing.
The accelerator. Yeah.
That's the accelerant part. This helps your operation grow so you can find new people to help with it. It boggles my mind that one, the thought even comes out. Two, that there's anybody possibly even saying, yeah, just bite the bullet. No.
I think it's probably partly what we touched on earlier about social media glorification. And
I know
so you should celebrate your wins, and entrepreneurship is beautiful, but you have to earn them. And so you can't just go with the highlight reel. And anyway, okay, back to the story. So, so I had my side hustle and I said, okay, this makes sense. At the time I was 24-ish. And so my only debt was my wife and I got married the year that I started my business. So we had our mortgage and car payments, and that was it. And so we knew that in the upcoming years we would have kids and we would do the family thing. And so for me, it really boiled down to, is this a good calculated risk? And can the risk get any better than now? Probably not, because kids are on the horizon.
Yeah.
And I want to grind it out because I know there's going to be a grind before I have kids.
Yeah.
And so that's like, if I had to give kind of the abbreviated cliff notes, that's how I got to where I'm at.
Right. And then you do have one now. You have one.
I have 3.
Oh, you have 3
kids. 3 kids. Yeah.
And then and then what are the ages?
I have a 9-year-old boy, a 6-year-old boy, and a 3-year-old daughter.
Awesome. So you've got both. That's good.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I'm congratulations, Dad and Mom. It's awesome. I'm a single dad. I raised my son with the help of my mother, because my mom's retired. And of course I'm the youngest in my family, so I get to take care of my mom now.
There you go.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Can the listeners see your eyes roll?
She's to the back of my head. The joy of that is obviously, she did a lot for me.
Yeah.
So it's all love, and I love her dearly. My son, same story. Even though some days I'd like to smack him upside the head and go, "What are you thinking?" Interesting though, he's Gen Z, and they're the smart ones. He comes out every once in a while and starts talking about stuff, and I look at him, I go,
What?
"You knew about that? What the hell? What do you?" Because half the time he's in his room and I hear him laughing with his friends. I don't know what he's researching, but he'll come out and he'll talk to me about current events, affairs, things of. He's even gotten into some politics, and I looked at him and I went, "All right, slow down, Junior. We need to talk." Just to keep things on the even keel, so to speak. But being a parent is amazing. I love it. I'm sure you do too. When you got to that point of starting to have children, how was that grind going? Was it just building, or was it you had to push through?
Mine goes in cycles because so I did the grind before kids. I was early 20s, and so I was, instead of coffee, it was beer, and so it was
Used to be mine's too. Now it's whiskey.
Yeah, it was late nights, and at the time, my wife, she worked at a hospital, and so she'd have like 4 a.m. shifts, so she'd get up at 3 or 3:30, and so I'd be like, why not get up at 3 or 3? Because I'm an entrepreneur. And so I would get up when she got up, and then I would work. She'd get home at like 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And so then I would just work for that 11, 12 hours. She'd take a nap, and then I would just, I'd hang out for an hour before she took a nap, and then I'd work 3, 4, 5 more hours. And so I would do 16, 20-hour days. And then when we had our first kid, it was, I had got far enough along where I found success, but I would define success differently then versus now, because at the time, the first couple of years, it was like the first year or two, it was just cool to be self-employed. So it was a one-man show.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the freedom to, have some downtime and be dad and things like that, but I wasn't running the scale of operation that I am now. And I'm actually really fortunate that I went through that, because I think for me, it was important to be the one-man show and to just go, this is cool. And then a year or two later go, holy crap, I have something here. Like, let's put on my big boy pants and now do something with it. So that gets into the cycle. So then for a couple of years after that, I really grinded it out, hired a couple people. And then that's when it was my first, 6-figure years. And that was exciting.
Yeah.
And then we had our second son. And then I started to get really into documenting processes. And you talking about VC money, one of the blips on the radar was I had a VC agency could come in and say, hey, we're buying this other company that does this other marketing thing, and it would be nice to complement them with your thing. And so we're thinking about rolling them together. Do you want to entertain it? And so I went and did some meetings with them. I ended up backing out because there was something slimy going on, and it was a bad vibe. And so, but I learned something really important in that meeting. And what that was, when somebody wants to buy, if you're ever planning on exiting, you have to have your processes documented, because they just want to take the keys and run.
Yeah.
And the other thing they want to do is they want to go, okay, where's the fire? Because we just want to pour more fuel on it. And so that was really valuable, because I had processes, but some were in my mind and some were in a spreadsheet and some were on this other thing. And so then when I left that, I said, I need to just consolidate them all to one location.
Yeah.
And that's something I talk about a lot on other podcasts, is the importance of processes. And, that sucked going through that cycle, because here I am running a business and a dad and a husband. And now I got to document everything, because I wanted to do it in a way that was very scalable and I didn't have to do again.
Yeah.
And so it was like 2 hours a day, every other day for a year. And because I wanted to do it very clearly where I could become dependent on the processes, and then I could just plug people in and not have to vet their qualifications, but not have to babysit them. I could just say, okay, you're vetted, now go.
It's interesting that you talk about that. There's two things. One, you talked about success and how you would define it differently. And yet I think most people misunderstand the definition of success, because it's not defined by a definition in a dictionary. It's defined by what you feel is affable to your particular situation. So if your situation was to be self-employed and it was cool, that was success. If it's to generate 7, 8, 9 figures in a company, that's your success. If it's to be a successful parent, and that you know that your kids are happy, smart, and well educated and good, upstanding citizens, that's success. I think a lot of entrepreneurs focus so much success on the money aspect, they forget about the rest of it. Like you said, celebrate your wins. Every win is a success because you aimed at something and you finally got it. When it comes to systems, we talk about documenting everything. I'm 48. Half my life I was a musician. That's the reason I asked you about music earlier. We didn't have systems. I went to work, I plugged my guitar in, I played, I sang, I did my thing, and I went home. What I didn't realize is that was the system.
Yeah.
And over time, from when I started doing all of this business development, marketing stuff from 2006 and so on, I didn't know what a system was. I didn't really care about systems. And then finally I started hearing, it started showing up in my life that, systems matter, systems matter. You need to get something in a system. And so now it's like every time one of my partners comes up with something, I'm like, okay, show me the system. Oh, here's the system. No, show me the system. Show me how this is going to flow. When we drop something in on one side, how much comes out on the other. I don't want to hear about the results. I want to hear about where it's going to start and how it's going to work. Then I'll tell you what the result is. And it's just a lot more predictable. It's a lot easier to, I find that there's a lot less weight on your shoulders when you can see what's going to happen from front to back. It's easier, like going back to the branding question. If I drop a piece of content in on my blog, what's the end result of that blog going to be? Am I going to educate people? Am I going to affinitize them to my brand? Am I going to get them to buy? What am I doing with that piece of content? And what's going to be the result on the back end? Speaking of which, and this one's another one, because everybody talks about it. I don't see a lot of people really doing it, because when I watch their content come out, only the gurus and experts actually seem to have any kind of flow. So when you're talking about a content, especially when it comes to SEO, instead of just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, what's your process? Like, how do you consider bringing people to the table that will affinitize to your brand and become a more likely client or customer for whatever it is that you're offering?
Yeah. So first I'll clarify that I am the shoemaker. And by that, I mean my website itself sucks. So because I'm so busy, my team is so busy.
I was going to say, what is it with us? We never do our own stuff. We do it well for everybody else.
Yeah. Well, it's because we're in a fortunate position where clients are the priority, and I'm not dying to impress anybody on my website. Because like we said earlier, by the time people come to me, they're just like, here's my money.
I don't think that's necessary either, honestly. I'm with you on that. I'm just saying, I agree. If your website has to be the impression, it's too late.
Well, and that's a good point, because sometimes the people that want it to be a good impression are probably not the people you want to work with.
Exactly, because they're looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
Fast results. That's not how this works.
So as I answer this question, if you compare it against my website, it's not applicable. So we actually do a ton of research, because as you said, you don't want to throw mud at the wall. So what we try to do is align, okay, first of all, what are our keyword targets? So what are the words that our client can monetize if they show up on Google? So that's the first, don't throw mud at the wall. Because a perfect example is we had a client years and years, well, they're actually still clients today. They are a contract electronic manufacturing company. And so they put things together.
Yeah.
And so they buy the blank circuit boards in bulk and then assemble them into final products.
Got it.
They don't make the blank circuit boards. And so what happens is they had misaligned that before we came on, because they said, well, we target circuit boards. Well, why?
That would have been my first question too. It's like, ooh, I can see where that's going to go.
Well, they were burning, so we don't do paid ads, but we'll review paid ad data. Yeah. And so when we were looking at their paid ads, they were spending 80% of their budget on circuit boards, and it was driving 0% of their revenue.
I'm sure.
So the first thing we do is we say, okay, before we build out our content, before we map out that strategy, we have to understand what are the words that we can monetize that align with audience. So that's where the content starts. Is even before that is, what are we going to what does our content need to support? And that's,
right.
Targets.
Right.
And so we go through a bunch of analysis. We'll look at what I call gut reaction keywords. So I'll tell the client, I'll say, what's your gut reaction that you think you can monetize? And I'm going to either qualify or disqualify it based on data. And then we'll go look at, okay, in addition to your gut reaction, we reverse engineered your competitor's SEO.
Nice.
And so we'll do systematic reports and say, here's what the data says. But then we'll also take our trained eye and manually go through it and go, well, people put SEO things here, here, and here, and do we see anything in those places?
Mm-hmm.
And so we catalog all this stuff, all these targets from their gut reaction, what their competitors are doing, what data shows, and what our own gut reaction is based on experience. We put it into one big list, then we run it through other filters and says, okay, this has high demand, low demand, and in addition to the demand, because like we said, you want to monetize these words. What's the point of showing up on the top of Google for something nobody searches? So then what we also do is say, okay, well, these look like good targets. What type of uphill battle are we up against? And so then we go look at not only the quantity of results. So for the listeners, if you want to do this, what you can do is you go to Google on a desktop. It won't work on a mobile, but if you go to desktop, go to Google, type in whatever, it's going to give you a quantity of results.
Right.
That's how many websites you're fighting against. Now, a lot of people say, well, that site that shows up isn't my direct competitor. Well, it doesn't matter because they're in your way.
That's right.
So that's your competitor. So we not only look at the quantity of results, but then we also look at the quality. Like, are there big gorillas in the room? Are you fighting against Amazon? Are you fighting against Walmart? So anyways, all of that, we agree based on that data. We say, okay, here's what we're going to target. Now, depending on what those words are, that's where we start to migrate the process into content. And so now we say, okay, how do we answer a question or solve a problem that a customer has that searches for these things? A super great tool to use that's free is answerthepublic.com.
That's a great tool. I use it. That's
Yeah.
a great tool.
You go there, you type in some of the words that you've found based on your data, and it's going to tell you the who, what, when, where, and why about that word. And what that data comes from is Answer the Public will go to places like Google Autocomplete. So when you start typing a thing in Google and says, I'm looking for XY, and then Google says, XYZ?
Yeah.
And then you go, yeah. And that's because other people have searched for that same thing. So that is clearly telling you where your market is.
Yep.
Other people have already searched for that. So then you align that search demand with your words you can monetize and build content that marry the two.
Awesome.
Good enough, or did I put you to sleep?
No, I'm sitting. Imagine standing behind an F-16 right after the afterburner just went off. That's how I feel right now.
You need a moment.
I need a moment to like, no, because it's what. First off, like, that's what we do too. Honestly, we, even for paid side, we have to understand the SEO side of things. We need to know what keywords your website is targeting out the gate, because if we start going and driving traffic at a keyword that's not in there, you're wasting, you're spending, you're not investing. You have to invest in alignment with what you've already got or what you're already targeting. If you don't have like a targeted keyword list, some of these terms, some of you guys might not understand. Don't worry about it. When you talk to your SEO expert, they understand this stuff. They'll know this. A keyword plan, an optimized keyword plan, is something that everybody should have. If it's not already on your website, go get that together. And if you really want to know more, go follow Damon, because he talks about this stuff. But here's the point, because like I said, even on the paid side, we have to understand what it is that's being targeted, especially like the Rye Spirits company I told you I work with. One of the keywords that was targeted was rye whiskey. Now, although the spirits is not a whiskey by definition, it's one of the places it would fall under. It's 21,700,000 competitive websites. How the hell do you dominate something like that? Well, it's not going to be just by SEO and by keyword optimization. You have to put out content. You got to put out content that makes sense, that people are going to consume and go, oh, that's cool. I want to try that. So, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, by the way. So when we put out content, it has to do with things that are in and around that realm, and attracts the buyer in a way that hey, this is something that you'd really want to either try or keep enjoying. Our back street's getting busy again. How wonderful. I get sirens down here every once in a while too. It's kind of nuts. But so back to that, when you're talking about putting an actual content calendar, to Answer the Public thing is awesome. you use the same methodology to beat out $1 billion company, or was that something you just happened to figure out, or how did, and I know you mentioned the name, let's leave the name out of it for a second. Let's just talk about the strategy. How did you figure out how the hell to beat them? Because just beating a media company that understands this stuff is insane when you're a guy that's just you.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit of combination. It's definitely part strategy, part early in on the SEO game, because this was years ago. But before we get into the ABC story, I want to circle back on something you said.
Okay.
You know, you talk about, like with the whiskey example and content strategy, you mentioned a really important thing, and the way that I usually paraphrase it is, you know, I don't know why people think that they can, if your website isn't unique, how do you expect to rank uniquely?
Right.
And so if there's 20 million whiskey websites and you're just puking the same garbage, like, well, you're not going to show up. So yeah, you have to take a unique position and
Yeah.
either present value propositions or answer questions. And another thing that you talked about, how you said you two on the other side of the coin doing paid ads, you research SEO stuff, and then I said vice versa.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is this goes back to the, you know, it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game kind of thing, because a lot of the times when you do the SEO stuff, it benefits paid ads indirectly. And the example is, now you got more relevant content. It's more compelling. It's more keyword dense. And because SEO improved the page speed, now your paid landing page loads quicker, which gets you a better ad score. So you can marry all of them, and it doesn't have to be like this one or the other thing.
Thank you for clarifying that and reiterating it, because I still don't think enough people get that part. Marketing, the pillars of marketing have not changed. The platforms by which they're delivered have,
yes,
but the principles have not. And you have to have a complete strategy in order for it. You'll have some success by doing a zero sum. You'll get some success, but you're not going to be able to scale it the way you think if you're not putting it all together.
You know, I touched on in my book about like the future of SEO, and some people ask me, you know, what's next, and how do we focus on the future? And you know what I say? Stop focusing on the future. And it's exactly what you said. Focus on the core pillars.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly like you said. So, okay, you know, there's different ways to present your content. You can do media, you know, videos now and graphics. It's still content.
Yep.
You know, you can have your website load on a phone or a tablet. It's still good user experience and page speed. Like it's just the core thing. So I think when all these people get distracted by shiny object syndrome, they need to instead of looking at it as an isolated shiny thing, they need to back it into a core pillar and then approach it that way.
Take a 53-foot container and just stick it right in there. It'd be perfect. You can offload a lot more that way. That's it.
Yeah. All right, ABC. So I get, you know, candidly, it's not as sexy as a story as the listeners are probably.
No, but it's fun as shit, and I want to hear about it, because the fact that you beat them is insane. I mean, let's be real. To be able to outrank anybody online already takes a lot of work. And of course, maybe this was a while ago, but even a while ago, nobody knew what the hell they were doing. You know, only the people that understood what was going on and figured out what was going on were able to do what they did. The bigger companies had way more money to put into that kind of stuff. It's just why they they jumped so far ahead so quick. They got all of that capital behind them. And here comes this guy out of left field, kind of like my buddy I told you about earlier, what he did with the Oscars, and just kind of like went, huh, is that all? Yeah. I mean, I know that's oversimplifying, but as you tell the story, it may not sound glorious, but trust me, there are guys out there going, yes. He gave it to the man.
No, it's a good story. But all right, so what it was is I don't even remember what year it was. It was probably
it doesn't matter.
So you know, I can't even say my wife watched this show, because every time, so it's The Bachelor, right?
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And every time I say my wife was watching it, everyone's like, "Sure, Damon." So my wife was watching The Bachelor, and it's like the Super Bowl. Like she brings me in for the season finale. So I don't watch sports, but I'll watch the Super Bowl, right? So she's like, come watch the finale. So I'm watching the finale, and I don't remember who the predecessor of the guy who I ranked, which I'll talk about in a minute. I don't remember who the predecessor was, but from what I remember of the season finales at the time, Bachelor was they would leave you hanging. So it's like, all right, here's the end of the season, and then, you know, check back in a couple of weeks, and here's going to be this new guy. Well, this time it was, hey, season's over. Our next guy is Andy Baldwin. And I was like, that's interesting. I wonder who Andy Baldwin is. And so I'm looking up Andy Baldwin. And as I'm searching around, I'm only seeing little bits of information here and a little thing from ABC. And, this guy was a Navy officer. And so there's stuff about his accomplishments in the Navy. And so as I'm clicking through it, I go, I'm not even into The Bachelor, and I'm searching for this guy. Imagine what's going to happen to the people that really do care about The Bachelor.
Yeah.
So that night I told my wife, I was like, hey, I'm going to go in the other, because I didn't, this was however many years ago. And so I didn't have a laptop. I'm like, I'm going to go to my desktop in the other room and bust out a website in 90 minutes. And so I just go in the other room and I just went and found anything I could about this guy, Andy Baldwin. And I built a fan site. So I bought andybaldwin.net. He owned his own site as well. So in addition to ABC, he also had his own .com website. And so I bought
Nice.
.net. And so what I did is I put up all the public domain content I could find, and then I structured it in a way that I knew search engines would, at the time, would read and identify with, and did all the SEO things that you do when you're, just cranking something out in 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's just, whatever. It's
just whatever.
Yeah.
And so I put AdSense on there, and then I don't remember how much, a couple of days later, I went in my AdSense account, I'm like, $2,000. What? And so then I was like, maybe I need to build this site out a little bit more. And so then I worked on building it up what I could. And then as, new articles come out from the mainstream media about the new Bachelor guy, then I'm like featuring that information and just kept building it out. And so it was the site for Andy Baldwin, and it would outrank his own .com. It would outrank ABC's Bachelor profile on it.
Tell me they didn't come after you in some way or form saying, hey, what the hell?
They actually didn't, but Andy himself did. I don't know if it was really him or his, like an assistant, pretending to be him or what. And so I got an email that says something like, hey, you should probably give us that domain. Nope. So I was very clear on there. I mean, even it was the unofficial fan. Like, I was very clear that this had nothing to do with ABC or anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was pretty surprised they wrote back and said no at that time, because I don't know anything, about.
I would have wrote back, nope, but I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. So I ended up repeating that with the next year. Brad Womack was the guy the year after, did the same kind of thing, and then I had bigger fish to fry after that point.
Oh, I'm sure you did. Once you figure that kind of stuff out, but you literally outranked the man who had the thing and should have been getting all the traffic. But it's probably because he didn't have somebody like you designing it, or had somebody that understood how to put it together. Crawlers were specific back in those days. They did a certain thing a certain way, and if you knew how that worked, you had all the advantage.
Yeah, it wasn't a pretty site. It was definitely the way that it was structured that brought home the bacon.
So, what's changed?
Well, a lot and nothing. So
I honestly, I expected that answer, and I want you to explain why, please.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot because obviously technology changes,
Yeah.
and there's new ways to build websites, and there's mobile devices now, and there's new programming languages, and audiences are on different platforms. But at the same time, it's like we talked about earlier about the core pillars. It's the same thing. So, one example is in 2011 and 2012, Google came out with probably two of the biggest algorithms they've ever had, which was called Panda and Penguin, that focused on content, quality versus quantity.
Pain in the butt number 2.
Well, so many people got hammered in the SEO space, but what was nice for us is we didn't. And I think it's because I stuck to the core things. But what I also did is I thought ahead. Like, I always had a tin hat thinking, these spammy things that SEOs do, if I can identify the footprint on those, Google definitely can. And so I started, probably within 9 to 18 months before those algorithms rolled out, I said, hey, we need to kind of like backtrack and clean up the things, even though they work now, I don't think they're going to work in the future. And so let's start proactively cleaning those up. So in come these algorithm changes, just decimates the SEO community and then all of their clients. And I don't have any statistics, but I wouldn't doubt if 50% of the SEO agencies went under.
I wouldn't doubt it was more than that, honestly, because Panda and what was the other one? Panda and
Penguin.
I during that time, I was in and around the affiliate marketing space. And there were a ton of SEO
Yeah.
guys that were promoting all kinds of stuff. And the more I looked at it, I went, there's a thread in here I'm noticing. I'm not liking what I'm seeing. So I stayed away from it. At the time, I didn't even have a website. I was just doing, social media management and stuff like that. But I was watching what was going on, and I was like, something's not going to be right. And sure enough, when Panda was released, people started complaining. When Penguin started getting released, people were starting to come up with new solutions for Panda. And I'm like, you guys are late.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are late, and your relevance is about out the door because now Penguin's in. So how do you fix that? And it goes back to, did they really stick to the pillars? I don't think they did. At least not the theories of what the pillars are with regards to marketing and putting out proper content. And I only noticed a few guys stuck with the right way to do it, I guess to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I still follow a couple of those guys today, although that's not my department, so to speak. That's really one of my other partners, and he knows both ends. He's been on the white side, he's been on the black side,
Mm-hmm.
white hat, black hat. So when he sees something that's black hat, he goes, "Yeah, we're not doing that."
Yeah.
I'm like, "But this is," he's like, "No, that's black hat.
But
We're not
it's
doing
working, yeah, but
Yeah.
it won't forever.
that." And the whole thing about that, and he's educated me a ton. I'm not the smartest guy when it comes to search engine optimization, but he'll come up with stuff. He's like, "Did you do this?" I'm like, "Why would I do that?" He goes, "Here's why." And I'm like, "Oh, sheesh, no, I didn't do that. Okay, can we get it done?" Which leads me to a good question. Obviously, we work with higher end clients, but there's entrepreneurs and smaller businesses that need this. They need this kind of stuff. They need to understand this. They need to have it. If they're going to hire an SEO company, what should they be looking for? I mean, you can't just take the first Tom, Dick, and Harry off the street and go, "Hey, can you do this?"
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to give I have two solutions.
Awesome.
One of them is going to make me cringe a little because it's going to be pitchy. So the non-pitchy one first is, because I'm not a sales guy, but it's where one of the answers is.
Well, wait till you hear my ending.
So so the non-pitchy one is, as you mentioned, I contribute to Forbes on the topic of SEO. So if you just go Google my name, Damon Burton Forbes, and find my column, there's several pieces that I've written about exactly this. So one of them is, what are the 4 red flags you watch out for when hiring an agency? Another one is, what are the 9 questions you ask an agency? And then
I think I've seen that article.
Yeah.
I think I have seen that article.
Then one of the other ones is 8 SEO myths to avoid. And then my latest article was the follow-up, 7 more SEO myths to avoid. So in there is like the perfect answer of, if anybody, like one example is, if you're interviewing an SEO agency and you say, well, how do you approach this one thing? And they go, well, it's proprietary. As soon as they say it's proprietary, just like take off, because all of us are using the same general tools one way or another. It's just who uses them better.
Yeah.
And so the chances of them actually having a custom built proprietary tool are slim to none.
Yeah.
So go read the Forbes articles, tons of answers in there. Okay, now here's the one.
I'll put the links in the descriptions, you guys. So just hang in there. You'll have it in the comments or in the description of the video or the podcast. So just read.
So here's the one I feel guilty about. So I did a chapter in my book that isn't entirely about that. And a lot of the information that I put out on Forbes comes from my book. And so there is a chapter in there dedicated to this, because when I wrote the book, I kind of had like 2 goals. One goal was, okay, here's not only do I want to use it to help qualify leads in big businesses and explain how you scale, but then I also wanted to help the little guys. So just like you said, give them a fighting chance. If you can't afford it, like, here's the blueprint. Because at the end of the day, I don't mind giving away all the answers, because if you have the time to take those answers and run, then you're probably not my ideal client anyway.
Exactly.
And so I'm fine helping those little guys that can take the information and run. So in the book, there's like a whole chapter on exactly that.
Yeah, I have by the way, that wasn't pitchy at all. That just means go get the damn book so you can figure this out. In which case, again, I'll need the link for that so I can make sure it's posted. Because
here's how good it is. Free SEObook.com.
Oh, well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen that are listening. Write it down. It'll also be posted on the comments and stuff. Free SEObook.com. Right?
It doesn't get more clear than that.
I don't know. Could you maybe? Could you get any clearer than that? Free? You did say free. You said free, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, I believe the same thing. I mean, when I talk to people about paid ads, I'll have people come to me and say, hey, can you help me set up a strategy? Hey, can you help me do this? I'm like, I'm not a coach. I will not stand in your corner and go rah rah. I will give you information because I hate rah rah. I really do. the last thing I think is effective is for somebody to sit there and go, we want to be your cheerleader. I don't need a cheerleader. I need somebody to show me what needs to be
Get it
done,
done.
and help me. Either you help me get it done or you show me how to get it done. And that's way more effective than me paying you any amount of money to go rah-rah. So like I'm working with someone right now who finally actually got me to concede consulting them. And I said, I'm not doing the work. Here's the first piece of work that you need to get done. They've done it. And I said, okay, here's the next piece of work you need to get done. And they're like, I kind of know this stuff. I'm like, yeah, so why did you ask me to coach you?
Yeah.
If you know this stuff, go here's
Just
the
do it.
resources. Go
Yeah.
do it. You're a small business. You have the time. Go do it. Go learn it, because when you become bigger, you're going to need to tell your team how it works, or at least have an idea of how it works, so you know when somebody's bullshitting you.
Mm-hmm. Well,
The 4 flags. What you like as an example? The 4 flags. What are they? Just as a quick light
I don't know.
touch.
Off the top of my head, I'm not gonna remember exactly what the 4 are. One would be the proprietary thing.
That's one.
One would be guarantees. So here's the thing about SEO.
When people start getting
Obviously,
into guarantees on marketing, I say run.
yeah, and here's why. Because the experienced SEO or paid ads guy or any marketer knows that they're so dynamic that things come and go. So if they say they have guarantees, then it's a sales pitch.
Yeah.
But what you can or should ask is realistic expectations.
There you
They
go.
should be able to set realistic expectations.
Yeah.
But if they say it's a guarantee, just get out.
Well, that was one of the, and you don't have to give the other two. Let them go get the book
I'm
or go read
looking them
the
up now.
articles.
You're making me feel guilty here. Damon Burton Forbes. Here we go.
No, but-
Here's the 4: guarantees, instant results, a monopoly on rankings, and costs that sound too good to be true. There's your 4.
So one of the other red flags I'll throw in there on top of those 4 is if anybody ever says expert marketer, there is no such thing as an expert marketer. There are expert testers and there are experienced marketers, but you cannot put the term expert marketer together. It's just not possible. If you look at it statistically and you look at it philosophically, even, it doesn't exist. You can't be sure of what's going to happen in any specific vertical until you test the idea. And that takes an investment for either side, whether you're doing SEO or paid ads. There's still an investment, even if it's just time.
You know what one of the cringy parts of being marketing is you can't position your title without sounding like a douchebag.
Which is why we don't have one. which is why we don't have it. It's why we just call ourselves marketers, expert testers or experienced marketers. And the only reason that it's not so much that it's a safe zone for us, it's a truth zone for us. It's just, I'm sorry. If I told you I was going to guarantee you 100 new leads, which I just saw this online too, and that was my
Like
first
LinkedIn
thing.
bios and
Yeah, well, these guys are like, we're guaranteeing 100 leads convertible, and I'm looking at them going, and how much money are you going to ask this person to dump into your company to go test the ads that you're going to need to run this and pay for your phone room?
Yeah.
Because it's not, your guarantees don't mean anything. It just means you're going to keep running shit, and if you end up running at a loss, you're not going to be around much longer than a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't care what algorithm you've figured out or what paid ad strategy you're using. It's in essence, and if somebody wants to prove me wrong, feel free. I have been wrong before. It's not a winning strategy. You're not. It's just not in the long run. You're gonna end up hurting yourself or your client.
Yeah, it's not good for you or your client, because then your client has unrealistic expectations. And then when those unrealistic expectations are not met, then you lose trust. And so then you don't build relationships, so you don't build a reputation.
Yep. Your brand actually takes a dump.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to catch up at some point.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. So for somebody who's a budding entrepreneur or somebody who's a startup, you know, if they're just looking to start, what it doesn't matter. They're all going to have some kind of online presence. It's just inevitable today. Maybe back in the 90s you could get away with not doing it, but today it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
What would you suggest is a good beginning strategy for somebody online when it comes to SEO?
You can hypercondense SEO into 2 categories. First category is how well your website is built. Second category is the external credibility.
Okay.
So without getting too techie, you know, on the first category, focus on really basic stuff. Don't overcomplicate your website. I've seen the most simplistic websites consistently outperform the most visually stimulating designs.
Yep.
So if you got to start with a simple website, That's great. Start simple. So don't invest an excessive amount of time or money into just getting your site up. Once your site is up, what I would instead focus your time on, assuming you have more time than money, is showcasing your expertise. So start doing the blogging thing by yourself. The key is quality and consistency. So don't force yourself to do it daily if you're just going to start cranking out garbage.
Yeah.
Ideally, yeah, maybe do it 2 times a week, but if it's that second time each week is just garbage, then don't do it.
Yeah.
So focus on quality, and then get kind of like we talked about earlier, sell without selling, give away your free advice, answer questions. And let's say you're not a writer, which is understandable, then there's a couple ways you can start differently. So maybe start recording a selfie video. You don't need to share the video, but then you can take and dictate it, or you can use a program like descript.com and it'll transcribe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
massage that into an article, because a lot of times, there's a whole left brain, right brain argument about content writing versus
Mhm.
doing video. So
Mhm.
like if you don't like writing, you probably are okay on video. So then just record yourself. You're not going to publish the video, but at least that way you get out a rough draft in your voice, showcasing your expertise. And then from there, just, fix the issues, structure it into a blog post, and then you're done. And
Yeah.
then, when you put all that time and effort into that piece of content, then you don't have to stop there. You can, don't reinvent the wheel. You can repurpose it. So
Yeah.
use something like, pictochart.com is a cheap and inexpensive, informative graphic tool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then you can take whatever your text is that says, here are the 10 amazing things about what I do. Now make a graphic that's, here's the 10 amazing things that I do. And so what you can do is you can stack that content. So instead of having a blog post that's only text, now you have a blog post and then a fancy graphic at the bottom, and then maybe a video too. And then Google comes along and says, wow, Michael not only has unique content, but it's compelling and it's more diverse because he's
Yeah.
got text and videos and images. So, content sucks, but it doesn't have to suck. There are ways that you can, like we talked earlier, build a process out of
Yeah.
it so you can be consistent at it.
How deep has the process gotten for you when it comes to creating content? I mean, is it like super involved, or is it enough? I
It's
mean, how do you view that?
My team's process. So I'm not in the content process, but I built it and then passed it on to my
Hand it
team.
over. Sure.
Yeah. So what we do is, we talked about the keyword research before.
Mhm.
So first we align the intent of the audience with keywords. Then we say, okay, what content can support those keywords? So we actually build out a 52-week content calendar. And so the reason why we strategize so far in advance is because, a couple reasons. One is, like we said earlier, if you plan on sitting down every Friday and putting on your writer's hat, you're going to have some bad Fridays.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
it's better to do all the research, front load that time, and then have a really good roadmap in front of you. So if you have a bad Friday, and you can skip it and then write on Saturday, and you already know what you're going to write about.
Right.
Because if you just like show up on a Friday and go, what am I going to write about? You're probably going to sit there for half the day trying to figure out what you're going to write about. So we map it out. The other nice thing about that is then we can go to the client once a year and say, look, here's our safety net. We may pivot from this as new things come up throughout the year. But as a baseline, all of this content is based on the keyword research we did that aligns with your audience's intent. Can we have your blessing on proceeding with this,
Sure.
these topics?
That makes
So then we
absolute
don't have to
sense.
ping the client all the time. They're not waiting on us. We're not waiting on them, and we can just have forward motion. After that, then we do exactly what I said earlier. We repurpose the content. So we write 2 months in advance. So now it's June. We're working on August content. The reason why we write in advance is because we use that first month to look at our content calendar and go, oh, here's what we're writing about, and then do the research and close the knowledge gap, because we're writing on behalf of our clients. Some of them are medical professionals. Some of them have doctorates. Some of them are attorneys. So we have to speak at their level.
Oh, yeah.
So that gives us time to close that knowledge gap, write it, and then send it to the client and say, look at this piece of content. Are we good? And then by the end of month 1 of 2 and us writing in advance, they say, yes, proceed. And then we use that second month to do the video repurposing, the graphic repurposing. So by the time month 2 is up and it's time to go live, we have a big fat stack of content that we layer together.
Sweet. All off of one simple map. That's really awesome. Cool. Thank you for the advice. That was awesome. Thank you for the insight. Where can people find you? I found you on LinkedIn. Obviously, I just requested connecting and I stalked you for a while. So sorry.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm there. That's why I'm on LinkedIn.
But where can people find you? Where's the most relevant place? We already got free SEO book.com. That's one. Where else? What's a good place for the people to find your content?
LinkedIn is my platform of choice, so find me on
Okay.
there. I am also relatively active on Facebook, so those are my only two platforms. If you go to the free SEO book, there's no upsell on the second page. On the thanks page is the download, but then there's also an invite to a Facebook group I have. So all the stuff we're talking about now, I also give away freely inside that Facebook group. So I'm pretty active in there.
Awesome. Okay, good. Well, I'll have to get a copy. And I don't know if you have any hardcovers. I might just ask you for a signature or something.
I do. Didn't you see me do this thing earlier?
Oh, yes, I remember you doing that. I didn't. Yeah, just to Mike with love, and coffee. To Mike with love and caffeine.
To Mike with love.
Yeah, just the way it needs to be.
And caffeine. Got it.
What's the future look like for you? I mean, where are you at right now as far as business and life is concerned?
That's a bit of a wild card. I have some very clear direction. Then I also have a bit of one path that's enticing that has no direction at all. So I'm in one path. I'm very fortunate to still be in this same industry 13 years later and still have the appreciation for it that
awesome.
I do.
That's awesome.
So, I still have the passion in it where I'm going to probably stay in it for a while. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind taking the fruits of my labor and exiting.
Yeah.
But,
right.
If I exit, I don't know what I'm going to do. I think, I've been at it for so long that I think I want to do nothing for a couple months. Like I'll always be, and as soon as that nothing is up, I'll be right back into entrepreneur land because, that's where, that's what feeds me. So I'll probably dive into some other consulting capacity, but somewhere in the middle, I'm going to do nothing.
We've been called a strange breed because of that. We can't not work.
Exactly.
Taking a break is really hard for us. Mental breaks here and there for honoring self, but taking long breaks like that, not easy because we get bored quick.
What I do is I do what I call day trips. So I'll take like a 6 a.m. flight to San Diego. So it's like a 90-minute flight.
Yeah.
Go get in some sunshine. I'll bring my laptop, sit on the beach. But I don't want to be away from my wife and kids. So I'll catch a 6 p.m. flight back the same day.
Yep.
And so I do that for my little mental breaks. But you're totally right. My sweet spot for like a quote unquote long vacation is like 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
Because I need 1 to 2 days to get out of my routine and not think work. And then I can relax on the third day. And then the fourth day, I'm like, oh man, imagine how much I could have accomplished by now.
Yep. That is totally how we are. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
I remember some years back when I was first starting this, the many nights of, staying up to 2, 3 in the morning and just doing stuff because I needed to research. If you remember the name Tom, we had a personal relationship before Facebook ever came along.
He was your best friend.
He was one of my best friends.
Your top 8.
He was one of my. He was number one of my top 8 actually.
Some people are like, "What in the hell are they talking about?"
Yeah, so it's a no longer well known name social platform called MySpace. Tom was the owner and creator of it. And when I first got onto MySpace, I was a talent scout. And it was a great place to find talent because they all went in there because of all the customizability and you could throw pictures and everything all over the place. But I used to talk with Tom. Hey man, what you doing today? What are you working on? What's going on? What's new? What have you learned? What's next for MySpace? And then he sold, and everybody got mad at Tom when he sold out. My message to him was, did it have at least six zeros after that the second comma? He goes, yeah, and a little more. I'm like, good, enjoy it. Love you, man.
Yeah.
Because everybody that was on the platform wasn't an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, I was like, he took his exit and he knew when it was time to get out because Facebook was starting to catch on.
It's funny because a lot of people say, oh, Facebook or MySpace is worthless, which, can be argued now, but they don't realize that Tom got out. Tom wasn't on the worthless train.
No, he wasn't. He knew when the train had hit the top of the mountain, he said, bye.
Yeah.
And the media company that owns it now isn't doing anything with it. I mean, it's a family media business, and they haven't done squat with it. So yeah, it's kind of sitting.
Mm-hmm.
It has a ton of potential. It could literally, right now in particular, it could completely reclaim a huge portion of the social market.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know how to do it.
No, yeah, they've niched it down to music, and it's just not moving.
Nah, YouTube's already got that cornered, in my opinion. But you know, my opinion, and $5 gets you Starbucks. But yeah, I think if that, I think they've gotten even more
Coffee.
expensive these days. Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm done. I'm sure we could go on for quite a
You
few
know
more.
what? Let's leave it with this. Michael, did you know that according to this coffee mug, I am the world's #1 dad?
I would have to say, if that's your belief, then it is true. and only because we're both dads. I think I'm the world's greatest dad.
Number ones.
Yeah, we can share the gold. You know, you take half, I'll take half.
Michael, it's not a zero-sum game. Thanks for your time, everybody.
We'll be here next week. So anyway, yeah, actually we're at the end of time, and I want to thank you again for taking time to educate myself as well as our listeners and our viewers on the subject of SEO, what it really means and what it's for. Guys, again, if you want to find Damon, find him on LinkedIn, freeseobook.com. I'll have a couple of links posted up on everything. Any last words, brother?
Thanks for the time, man. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right. From both of us to all of you, y'all know how I like to sign off. I love every one of you. Stay up, stay healthy, stay safe, but live, for goodness sakes. Take care of each other. Thank you very much. Talk to you guys soon. Ciao for now.